Hey guys, today was a big day. PTR has been released to the public to test the balances for classes. I've expected only a few class changes, but the developer has touched around every single class. I've enjoyed talking about all of them live stream today. This video will summarize every single class. Also, please note that these changes in Korea will not impact as much in other servers because it impacts late game too far away, and majority of the large changes are specific builds. Take this information to an account of how character will build up in the future as we progress through the game. Don't panic. Let's go through the warrior classes first. Beserker got an overall nerf, most of his main DPS skills including Hellblade and Swordstone. Therefore Mayhem has gotten much weaker than usual. Problem is he used to do way too much damage compared to the technical ability required to land the skills. Beserker's technique has been buffed in crit damage, so it opens some more options to builds. Beserker is also able to provide consistent synergy of 6% more damage to yourself and your party. In short, he has received a 6% more damage party synergy while taking away some DPS. Gunlancer. Red Gunlancer got a decent buff, along with an interesting optional skill, Counter Spear. Counter Spear used to be an unusual skill because due to its lack of damage, but the huge damage buff made the skill viable. Therefore, as developer notes said, they want to improve the overall playstyle of the red Gunlancer because it lacks survivability compared to the blue Gunlancer, and the reward was not good at all. I am probably planning to utilize Counter Spear, swapping Fire Bullet or Spear Shot. Destroyer. Destroyer got a really decent change. Although his DPS went down a little bit due to his main DPS skill, Seismic Hammer, got nerfed. However, Destroyer's real problem was his playstyle. There was some RNG and his overall mechanics were really bad compared to other classes. Basically, those of you who don't know, you have to land your blue skills to fill up your core. And you have to use those core to do more damage on your purple skills. Blue cores filled up as RNG. Now it provides consistent cores, and the most important skill, Endure Pain, provides full 3 cores and also taunts. So there are 2 classes that can taunt now in Lostark, and an overall combination of skills are much smoother for Destroyer. Paladin. Paladin has gotten an adjustment in positional play by swapping some skills into back attacks instead of front. This is more of a nerf than a buff, because head attacks provide additional bonus stagger, and Paladin's main stagger skill, Executions and Holy Sword, turned into a back attack, so their stagger potential has been put down a lot. Let's go over the fighters. Wardancer. Okay, before going over the nerf of the Wardancer, it is important to cover the Conviction and Judgment rune. Conviction and Judgment rune used to be the most OP rune due to the cooldowns providing additive percentage, meaning it turned 15% cooldown into 65. But this patch turned these runes into multiplier increase, so the effect has been nerfed down a lot. There are classes that utilize this Conviction and Judgment rune, and Wardancer is one of them. Basically, there is a relic set called Domination, and it requires you to do your awakening skill to be in the awakened state. This buff lasts 2 minutes and it provides huge cooldown percentages and flat damage increase. Problem is this buff only lasts 2 minutes and it requires the player to consistently use the awakening skill to keep the buff up. This means awakening needs to be under 2 minutes. To keep awakening lower than 2 minutes of cooldown, you need to equip awakening engraving. However, if you utilize Conviction and Judgment rune with high swiftness, the awakening timer goes about 1 minute and 50 seconds. So you are able to equip another damage engraving to boost 16 to 18% more damage. This min-max method has been blocked due to the nerf of Conviction Judgment rune. This is actually the biggest change in Lostark. This is one of her nerf, and the second one is her Wind's Whisper. It no longer provides 16.6% crit rate. Therefore, this crit rate needs to be pulled from somewhere else. So high swiftness Wardancer is impossible to be played because 16.6% crit needs to be moved from somewhere else, which is about 450 crit combat stats. However, her overall 18% damage increase provided her lower DPS end to be a little better, so beginner players will not feel clunky as much, along with Wind's Whisper providing mana regen. Builds like First Intention may be a good potential in the future, but it needs more research. And also, problem is, Wardancer is a complicated class. As mentioned in my guide video as well, it requires a lot of research to figure out the best min-max build. So far, think of it as all of the absolute min-max builds are blocked. This doesn't mean your Wardancer is going to suck, so make sure you don't worry too much. If you like playing Wardancer, you should keep on doing so, because there will be some researches later on to find a good build for her. Scrapper. Scrapper's got a huge buff, one of the biggest. Before, Scrapper needed to use Charging Blow to increase her attack power to be viable. Now majority of that DPS boost buff has been passively attained by giving all Scrappers skill 24% more damage. This is huge. Therefore the class itself has become even easier to play with better maneuvering skills and less penalty for not playing properly. It is a good day for Taijutsu Scrappers, but Shock is also fine due to flat damage increase. Soulfist. Soulfist has a questionable change. Problem is they did get a 30% damage buff on all of her skills, but this is due to the removal on her pre-setup buffs. The skill energy release used to provide 55.6% damage increase on full tripod level. So the class's goal was to pre-set up by using the energy release and her hype mode, then dish out as many DPS skills as you could. This is why the class was very hard. Since they removed that pre-setup and put everything into passive damage increase, they're missing about 25.6% damage. Problem is in Robust Spirit, the missing 25.6% damage can be covered with being able to take another DPS skill instead of energy release, where you can enter Hype 3 mode and spam as many skills as you can to cover that DPS loss from the balance patch. Energy Overflow's longer cycle continuation makes this change very rough, because the build's advantage was smoother buff pre-setup. So therefore, because of the Hype 3 utilization, Robust Spirit is much in a better end. Lancemaster. Lancemaster's changes are great, but it brought some new problems. Nobody knows how to build it properly. This is due to majority of the red skills being buffed. For example, all red skills provide additional crit damage increase. If this is the case, Keen Blunt slowly becomes inefficient as more red skills you take. And if you don't take Keen Blunt, blue skills become very inefficient. So people around me right now are researching how to figure out a proper Zenith build. Although in overall playstyle, she has another counter in the red skill and more optional takes as mentioned above. It is up to the users to find a perfect combination of skills and ingredients. The self-control blue build is also buffed because one of her major DPS skill has been changed into back attack from front, where the entropy set back attack build became more efficient, doing more damage. Striker. Striker didn't change much in terms of performance, but lightning kick does not go through boss monsters anymore. This is a huge help in gameplay because it was really annoying in some Legion raids. Let's go over hunters now. Deadeye. Unfortunately, Deadeye didn't get as much changes, either other than small buff and handgunner build. Artillerist. Artillerist overall got a nerf on stagger. In the very end raids, people invited Artillerist for huge stagger potential. For example, the combo missile launch and napalm shot before impact was a known stagger burst combo to make Legion raid mechanics easier. The combo itself didn't get nerfed though, but his overall longer consistent stagger has been nerfed. Added counters and more options on skill is good, but it's not a very good change. On a side note, the turret mode's playstyle has been helped a little bit, like being able to use a battle item. Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter is already an underperforming class. His identity gauge filling has been buffed, but friends say that you used to be able to fill up your identity gauge when you use the skill Blaze Storm in place. But now they said you need to hit the skill in order for you to get the identity gauge. This could be a bug, but we'll have to see. The Loyal Companion has gotten a minor buff, but I think more changes should come to Sharpshooter. Scouter. Non-transformation build Scouter also utilizes the Conviction and Judgment move, so it is an overall nerf even if they got the skill buffs. As for transforming Scouter, his R skill used to be his counter and his main DPS skill, so it was harder to utilize the counters because you cannot save your main DPS skill, you need to cycle it every time. Counter skills changed to his A skill instead of R, which is a better choice for countering, which is good. Gunslinger. Surprisingly, I didn't expect a buff on Gunslinger, I expected a nerf. She has more DPS options. Rain of Bullet can be omnidirectional skill due to the new tripod in a tight spot, like the shotgun one has. So most gunslingers including me are planning to utilize the Rain of Bullet instead of the shotgun fire, because it is much faster and versatile in animation locks. Also, a full rifle build is being researched at the moment due to the 4th skill Catastrophe is being buffed as well. As for time to hunt, it feels like a buff for the crit rate, but it's actually a nerf due to Conviction and Judgment rune being nerfed. This build was also a build that utilizes those 2 runes for boost of overall DPS. Let's go over the mages. Summoner. Summoner's synergy has gone in an overhaul. Instead of burst 24% for 2 seconds, she is able to provide consistent synergy of 12% decrease in defense. Therefore, people are thinking of utilizing some spec into Summoner, because high swiftness is actually not required to maximize the short burst of synergy. Since spec provides higher identity gauge gain and damage on elemental spirit attacks, it may increase her overall DPS further, but we have to check it out. The problem is that her counter isn't good. The new counter water elemental is not very good at all. It's slow and it's not multi-target. I'm assuming this will be changed soon later. Arcana. Arcana's gotten a general DPS buff for red skills. Arcana requires to stack with blue skills and pop the stacks with red. Fun fact is our identity card has been changed where normal attacks will provide 1 stack as well. So it kind of added more optional play to remove high RNG play. At the same time, Emperor build was super hipster build, not to be really mentioned, but the Emperor card can equip a gem now, and Emperor build's main DPS skill Checkmate has been buffed by 12%, so people are researching the build as of now. Bard. Bard has an interesting change. Her Prelude of Storm can counter now. However, Prelude of Storm is a skill where she gains the most identity gauge, so most of the time the skill is constantly rotating. However, if that's fine, People do not need to take Rhythm Buckshot, so they can utilize more identity gauge related skills, or mark skills like Stigma and Harp of Rhythm. Bard has gotten more freedom with choosing skills based on the player's playstyle, so I think it's an overall nice change. Sorceress. Sorceress is very simple. She has gotten about 10% damage decrease in crit spec ignition build, about 3 to 4% damage decrease in crit swift ignition build. With Frost being another option to counter, that particular skill has an identity gauge gain tripod, so that tripod's price is skyrocketing right now. Let's go for Assassins. Blade. Surge Blade has been nerfed. You cannot do 12 stack remaining Surge builds anymore. What this build did before is you turn on Surge, within the 3 bubble buff status where you get the maximum buff efficiency, you squeeze in as many normal skills as you can for maximum damage. After releasing the Surge, you utilize your skills again to fill back the bubble. This is impossible due to the nerf in orb returns per stack. Also, damage has been fixed to 100%, so a build that goes Surge level 1 on purpose of high-end 3-3-3-3-3-1 build is not viable anymore due to damage being not efficient as 100% increase instead of 150 at full stacks. So there's really no reason to go Surge anymore going at level 1. Unless people want the extra 20% damage on Surge with level 3, remaining energy is better mathematically right now. Shadowhunter. Shadowhunter is also hugely buffed like Scrapper. The Demonic Impulse build just got a 6% flat damage increase due to her being able to keep the synergy up 100% of the time during transformation phase and even on human phase. Spacebar buff is also pretty cool. The Howling does give less identity gauge, but majority of the identity gauges fell off by Demonic Vision anyway, so the change is minuscule. However, Perfect Suppression just became Perfect Depression because the DPS went down even more. Reaper. Reaper has become the king of counters. Her skill Nightmare can counter from far range, and her Blink also counts as a counter. So a skilled player can definitely counter really well now. She also got a 12% damage reduction synergy that can be up 100% of the time. As for Moon build as well, her cycle of skills has been revisited due to these series of buffs, so overall play has become more smooth. As for Specialist Artist, she has gotten buffs on overall stagger, and her heal orb can automatically provide heals even if nobody absorbs it with the G key. Other than that, some of the small ones not that important, like going through the portal gives you shield, but no one really takes the portal. So this summarizes the overall changes to the classes in the balanced PTR release. Personally, I think overall changes are pretty good so far on average, except few classes. However, I think the developers will keep changing this in the future. In short, they are starting to make classes much easier to control and provide better rewards for mechanical skills. I think that's really good. Again, the global servers do not need to panic. I do not think anybody needs to re-roll at this point. And as far as I asked the others, they're all keeping their classes and they're just researching it right now. As always, thanks again guys. Bye!